These 8 useful English words will boost your everyday fluency and your IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge score. And you won't just memorize them. You'll meet each one inside the story, feel what it means, then prove you caught it. That's how your brain keeps them for good. Everyone at Hill Street School was afraid of Viktor Petrov. He was the biggest boy in the year. He never spoke. And a year ago, he had supposedly wrecked the science lab in a rage. So when Nadia was told she would have to work with him, alone, for a whole month, she was sure it was the worst news of her life. She could not have been more wrong about him and about all of it. Viktor sat at the back of every class, huge and silent, his dark eyes fixed on the desk. He never put up his hand. He never laughed at anyone's jokes. To the whole school, he was brooding and dangerous, a brooding giant who might explode at any moment. Most of the children simply stayed out of his way, and Viktor, withdrawn and alone, let them. The story everyone whispered was that Viktor had smashed an entire shelf of lab equipment to pieces in a fury. Nobody had actually seen it happen, but the prejudice had stuck to him like glue ever since. The big, foreign, silent boy simply must be the violent one. It was easier to believe than to ask. That kind of prejudice rarely bothers with the truth. On the first afternoon of their project, Nadia sat as far from Viktor as the table allowed. He did not look at her. When she asked him a question, he only muttered a few words she could barely hear. His face turned away. He muttered. He shrugged. He stared at the floor. This, she thought miserably, was going to be a very long month. Then, on the third day, Nadia saw his notebook. While she had been talking, Viktor had been quietly sketching in the margin, and the drawing stopped her cold. It was a sketch of the old harbor from their project, and it was beautiful, alive with light and water, better than anything she could have made in a year. "You drew this?" she breathed. For the first time, Viktor looked straight at her, and very slightly, he smiled. After that, everything changed. Viktor, it turned out, was not dangerous at all. He was gentle, almost painfully so. He spoke quietly because his family had only moved to the country a year before, and he was terribly shy about his English, certain that everyone would laugh the moment he got a word wrong. The huge, brooding boy the whole school feared was just a kind, gentle soul, hiding behind a language he did not yet trust. As the weeks passed, Viktor began to confide in her. One afternoon, he finally told her what had really happened in the science lab. A heavy shelf had begun to topple, right above a small boy from the year below. Viktor had thrown himself beneath it and caught it on his own back, holding it up until the little boy scrambled clear. The equipment had smashed on the floor all around him. Viktor had saved a child, and the whole school had decided, in frightened whispers, that he was a monster. Nadia was furious, not at Viktor, but at every single person who had ever crossed the street to avoid him. When their project on the old harbor won first prize, with Viktor's stunning drawings at its heart, she made him stand up and take the bow. The class stared at the silent giant they thought they knew, holding a prize and blushing to his ears, and slowly something began to shift. It is a strange thing, how quickly a story can change once one person decides to look closer. The girl who had dreaded working with Viktor had befriended the gentlest boy she knew. And once Nadia had befriended him, others followed. The boy who had eaten lunch alone for a year suddenly had a place to sit and people to sit with. On the last day of their project, Viktor confided one more thing to Nadia in his careful, growing English. For a whole year, he said, he had believed the silence around him was his own fault, that he was simply too foreign, too quiet, too different to belong. He had not been withdrawn because he was cold, but because he was lonely and afraid. The truth was the exact opposite of the rumor. The most feared boy in the school had only ever wanted, like anyone, a single person willing to look past the prejudice and simply say hello. Now, and did you catch all 8? Let's find out. A verb meaning to speak in a low, unclear voice, hard for others to hear. It's how you grumble a few quiet words under your breath. When Nadia asked Viktor a question, he only did this. His face turned away. He only did what? Spoke a few low, unclear words that she could barely hear. The word is mutter. He muttered something under his breath and walked quickly away. A verb meaning to draw something quickly and roughly, with simple lines. It's what an artist does with a pencil, capturing a scene in moments. While Nadia talked, Victor was quietly doing this in his notebook margin. Victor had been quietly doing what? Drawing the old harbor in the margin of his book?
The word is skɛtʃ.
She likes to sketch the boats in the harbor every weekend. An adjective meaning kind, soft, and careful, never rough or harsh. It describes a soft, calm person who would never hurt anyone. Beneath his huge, silent size, Victor was actually this, almost painfully so. The boy the whole school feared was, in truth, kind and what? Soft and never rough. Ever.
The word is ʻdʒɛntəl.
The huge dog was surprisingly gentle with the tiny kitten. A verb meaning to make friends with someone, especially someone lonely. It's reaching out a warm hand to someone sitting all alone. Nadia did this to Victor, the boy everyone else avoided. The girl who had dreaded him had done what? Made friends with the gentlest boy she knew.
The word is befriend.
She tried to befriend the new student sitting alone at lunch. An adjective for being quiet and distant, keeping away from other people. It describes a person who pulls back into themselves and rarely speaks. Victor seemed to this silent and alone, but only from loneliness, not coldness. He had not been what? Quiet and shut away. Because he was cold, but because he was lonely.
The word is withdrawn.
After the move, the shy boy grew quiet and withdrawn for months. A verb meaning to tell someone a secret or private thing because you trust them. It's sharing your private worries with one person you really trust. As the weeks passed, Victor began to do this in Nadia about his life. Victor began to do what? Share private things he trusted her with, telling her things he had told no one.
The word is confide.
She finally confided in her sister about her secret fears. An adjective for looking dark, silent, and deep in troubled thought. It describes the heavy, moody silence of someone lost in dark thoughts. The whole school saw Victor as this, a silent, dangerous-seeming giant. The class stared at the silent, what kind of giant? Dark and lost in thought. They thought they knew.
The word is brooding.
He sat alone in the corner, dark and brooding, saying nothing. A noun for an unfair opinion about someone formed before you really know them. It's the unfair judgment people make based only on how someone looks. This stuck to Victor because he was big, foreign, and silent. He just wanted someone to look past the what, the unfair judgment, and simply say hello.
The word is prejudice.
We must fight the prejudice that judges people by their accent. Quick recap. How many do you still remember?
Mutter. Sketch. Gentle. Befriend. Withdrawn. Confide. Brooding. Prejudice.
A new English story every day. Subscribe and learn useful words the way your brain actually keeps them. Inside a story you won't forget.